Hello. I'm back. Hi guys. I look so gross right now. I don't even have my eyebrows on or anything. But I needed to get this video out there because it has been so long since I've been on YouTube. Holy shit. For those of you who don't know, right after I made that video announcing I was going to be doing the summer camp series, my laptop just basically broke down. It was crashing like every 30 minutes while I was trying to edit my video, and then once I was trying to export it, it just could not. Like, it would just crash and crash and crash, and there was nothing I could do to put the video out there, and it has taken me this long to get a new laptop. So that's the full reason for my absence, basically, along with some other stuff, but whatever, that's all you need to know. I'm back for the most part. There is only a couple weeks left of August for the most part, so I'm going to try to put out as many videos as possible, but August is a really busy month for me because I've got my 21st birthday next week on the 17th, which I'm super excited about, and I got a family vacation, and I'm going to be moving into my new apartment, and yeah, let's not expect a miracle. I'm going to try and put out as many videos as I possibly can, but it's going to be a lot for me. So, I just wanted to get this out here as quickly as possible. Thank you guys for being patient and checking in on me and shit. And without further ado, here's the video that broke my laptop. Enjoy.
Hey guys! So, as you may have noticed, I am outside in the beautiful light, looking pale as hell. I'm hoping to God by the end of the summer I have a little bit of a color on my cheeks, but in any case, why am I outside? Well, if you weren't here for my last video, you really should check it out because I have 4 huge announcements on there that are crazy important. But one of them was this. I'm going to be doing a video series called Summer Camp 2017, where basically I'm going to be posting twice a week, hopefully, and I'm going to be showing lots and lots of tutorials and things for you guys so that you can improve your skills to really take on this next school year or this next chapter of your career with some really new meaty tools in your tool belt. If you see me flinch or look away, it's because there are bees out here, like gigantic bumblebees, and they kind of freak me out. See, that's what I mean. Oh my god. Anyway, before I get into the topic of this video, I want to do just a little shout, just a little promo. I have a Redbubble account. You can now buy merch. It is Biana Bova. I've got the link down here and the link also down here for you guys to take a look at, so you guys can check that out and buy something and support me, and I will send you so much love into the universe and you will feel it a little bit somehow. But yeah, it would do me a lot of good. So basically, we're gonna get into this video. So for those of you guys who've been following me for a really long time, I have complained about digital art for a while now. I have really only just recently gotten comfortable with it, and that's purely thanks to all of my classes and professors at Mass Art. And basically, I've gotten to the point now where I have a very clear-cut, formulaic process for how I do my digital art that uses just enough of my traditional art skills that I feel like nice and comfortable, but just enough digital art skills that I can easily manipulate my image later on if I need to. Say, for example, like a color doesn't look right when I'm printing, I can very easily adjust it and change it. It's a very organized way of doing digital art, and that's why I think it's so successful. So if you're someone who is a little scared of doing digital art and you really don't know even where to start and you're kind of nervous, I totally understand, and we're going to walk you through it. Keyboard commands and everything. So first and foremost, I do not like sketching and doing line art on a tablet. I don't know why, it's just never worked for me. I never seem to kind of like commit. So what I do is I get a nice clean piece of paper and I do my sketch on there. Then I put a piece of transfer paper on top of it, and I do my line art in a Pentel sign pen. Is my favorite thing to use, and you do your line art. Once that's done, you're going to take your transfer paper and preferably put it on a clear white wall in nice lighting. If you don't have a clear white wall, you can use another colored wall. Just make sure that the color is uniform, and again, having nice lighting is a really big benefit. No shadows or whatever creeping in, because that's going to be very hard to edit later. And you're going to take either a really nice high quality photograph or a really good high quality scan and pop that image into Photoshop, and that's where I will meet you guys and we will discuss how you tweak and edit and make your perfection. So now we're in Photoshop, but before we start editing our image and getting it ready for the digital painting, I want to go over some basic keyboard shortcuts in case you guys really don't know any of the buttons. If you're not that much of a noob and you know how to get around Photoshop easily, you can skip this part. But if you are constantly having to manually click on a whole bunch of basic icons, then stick around because this might be useful content for you. So before I even get started with that though, I do have to say that I use a Windows computer. So when I say Control, if you have a Mac, that means Command. If I say Alt on a Mac, that means Option. So just keep that in mind, you're gonna have to do a little bit of translating. Okay, so B on your keyboard means brush, and that gives you your brush tool. E gives you the eraser tool. Very easy to remember and crazy useful. Also, the bracket keys make your pen and eraser larger or smaller. Control U is a super useful command. It brings up this window that adjusts the hue or the saturation. So let's say I have a color on one layer and I need it to be a different color or just slightly different. I can change the saturation, the lightness, or whatever, and make it a little bit more the way I want. Next, we're gonna do Control Alt G. This gives us our clipping group. Clipping groups are a little bit harder to explain, but they make a lot of sense when you do it. So say you have a thing colored on a layer, some kind of blob, that is your base layer. If you make a layer on top of that and hit Control Alt G to make it the clipping layer, whatever you color on your clipping layer will only show up within the confines of whatever you drew on your base layer. Anything outside of it won't show up, anything within it will show up. This is really useful for if you want to add shadows and highlights and you don't want to constantly be worrying about, oh no, I have to stay within the lines. It's very useful. Also, going beyond that, hitting C on your keyboard will give you the crop tool, pretty self-explanatory. Control T is the transform tool. So this will make your whatever is on that layer either larger or smaller. If you hold down the shift key, it will stay within proportions. If you don't, you can make things a little bit wider or a little bit taller depending on what you're trying to do. The gradient button is also something I use a lot. It might be hidden underneath the paint bucket tool. Just go over to the far left and hold down on it if you don't see it already. If you go to the top, you'll see a little gradient picture. If you click on that, you can see that you can either make your gradient go from a color to transparent, or it can be a mix-up of the two colors that are already selected. So click on whichever one that you want particularly, then you can change what kind of gradient you want to have even further. You'll notice some icons to the right of it. One of them creates kind of like streaks, in whatever direction that you pull down on, or you can do these things called, I guess, bursts. There are two types of bursts. One of them creates kind of like a diamond look where it has like 4 points coming out of the center. The other one is a more round, soft look. So depending on what you want, you can get those kinds of visuals. The streaky sort of gradient tool I find very useful for backgrounds, whereas the bloom sort of look I find great with clipping groups because it gives me kind of soft shadows in more specific areas. There's a couple other things that I forgot to record. Control A will select your entire image. Control D will deselect anything that you have already selected. Control plus and Control minus zooms in and out of your image. And you'll notice that in your layers palette, there are a couple of buttons I want to point out. Along the bottom next to the new layer button is what looks like a little folder. This is really good for organization. So let's say you have a crap ton of layers and you need to organize them. You can name your folder and then put various layers in there just by dragging and dropping. And then if you go to the top of the layers palette, you'll see the word normal. If you click the drop down menu, you can see that you can change your layer to a whole bunch of different types of layers. A little bit difficult to explain, but basically the most popular ones that you need to know are normal, overlay, which is great for highlights, and multiply, which is great for shadows. So let's get back in with our picture. So you're going to load your photo or your scan into Photoshop. And if you need to, hit the C button and give it a good crop. You might need to zoom in to give it a more refined crop. Get it as close as you possibly can, and then hit enter. If you notice that there are a couple little problems with your crop, maybe you took a photo on a slight angle, go to Edit, Transform, Warp, and then just tease those edges a little bit to make it a little bit more perfect. If you did a really bad job and the angle's severe, it's going to look very warped and distorted. But this is a completely fine maneuver if it's pretty small and subtle. Once everything looks good, you're going to go to the bottom of your layers palette where there's a little circle icon. It looks like it's half filled. Click on that, and then you're going to go to black and white, hit that, and that will make your image, of course, black and white. Then it's going to pull up a kind of a color dragger thing. So because my original image was very yellow and orange, I'm going to pull on my yellow to make the whites really white and pull on my red to make the blacks really black. This alone does a pretty good job, but we're going to refine it even more. Go back to that half circle icon and we're going to hit levels. This will help make our blacks really black, our whites really white, and you can even adjust for the gray, which will help get rid of any kind of pixelation noise, any kind of grittiness that we don't want in our line art. And then to go even further, again, go back to that circle and hit brightness and contrast. This will help brighten up our image and sharpen up the lines. Be careful when you're doing your line art. Like, do not go too fast in this step. You might need to go back into those layers and adjust and tweak. You really, really, really want to keep it as crisp as possible. Do not settle. Try to make your lines as bold and as the original and not eaten up by white or eaten up by black. When you're absolutely happy, you are going to save it as a JPEG, open it up. Then we're going to select out the white. So go to select up at the top, go down to color range. This will bring up a window and your cursor will turn into what looks like a color picker. You're going to click on the white in your image. Nothing will happen. This is normal. Next, just hit OK. And that will make your image suddenly full of selections. And then you're just going to hit delete. And now all of the white in our image is gone and we are left with beautiful line art. So if you put a layer underneath that and you do some coloring, you'll notice that everything looks great. If you go back to the line art layer and you hit the lock button, which is in your layers palette towards the top, it looks like a small little grid, and you click on that and then you pick a color using your pen tool, you can color in your line art into whatever color you want and desire. This is the part where if you did a really bad job with your line art, it's going to show. So if you're coloring it in and you see a lot of pixel dust and a lot of graininess, you're going to have to go all the way back to when we were adjusting the image and make it a little bit cleaner, save it again, and try again. But if it looks great, as it does right here, we're just going to move on to the next step. Open up your new Photoshop file, pop that JPEG, the new fresh line art into there, and we can keep going. So underneath the line art, I like having a color as my background. I find it really, really useful for making my color selections later on, and I find the gradient tool is really useful because my image is underwater. I've got these two blues. And next what I do is I create a folder, and in that folder I have one layer which is called my base color. So for each base color that I find in my image, that's what I'm going to color in. As you can see, my flower is this kind of fuchsia color, so I just color that in and that's the base. And then I have two clipping layers on top of that. One of them is for the shadows, one of them is for the highlights. And then I close up that folder, name it flower, and I move on to the next one. And for this coral, it's the same deal. I've got this base color with a couple of clipping layers for the highlight and the shadows. And I just kind of work my way through like that, making sure that I name each folder so everything is very clear. But basically each base layer is just one flat color with a couple of extra layers on top that are nice and clipped, so it's super easy for me to go in and edit. Once everything is colored in and it's looking sharp, by the way, if you need to, you can hit Control U on these layers and really, really color adjust and make it look perfect. Once all of that's done, I can go in with even more layers and kind of add the special effects. So I've got this one layer that I changed to overlay, and that's the bubbles. And then I've got this other layer for the text, a couple little gradients, and boom, everything looks beautiful and exactly the way I want it to. So this is my basic digital process. I hope this was easy to understand. If there's any problems or anything that's a little bit unclear, I can mostly help you down in the comment section below. But this is a super useful method if you need to stay organized with your digital process, if you want to make things easier on yourself, or if you're just learning. This is how I'm doing it, and it's been working for me just fine. Hopefully this is going to be a really good guide for you guys. And if you have any questions for me in the comment section, if I didn't explain something clearly, let me know down below. Also, if you have any other little sneaky digital art tricks, I would love to hear your process too. You can catch me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Tumblr. It is all Biana Bova. You can also see me once again on Redbubble, which is also Biana Bova. There's a very clear theme. So, the next video, I forget honestly what the timing of this video is going to be, but like it should be here to you guys like in half a week or so. So I'll see you in that one, and yeah, hope you're having an awesome day. Bye guys!